New Nick Crowley video, new Nick Crowley series, Mysteries of the Internet, Volume 1. Alright, chat, lock in. Lock in. Following video contains... okay, you wanna let me read the video? Holy shit. Or the text, sorry. The following video contains scenes that may be upsetting and distressing for some. Okay, man, I thought it was gonna be like mysteries. I didn't know we're doing spooky shit. Come on, brother. The girl at the door.
It's the 22nd of November, 2019.
Bro.
A Ring doorbell begins recording as a young girl approaches a home in the Harriet Creek Ranch neighborhood of Texas.
Is that a microphone?
It's pitch black out, and the girl is seen all alone, which by itself is strange enough, but it's moments later that this footage becomes truly concerning.
On a side note, before we get into creepy shit, if you guys are looking for some good gum, I swear to God, this is probably the best. This is not a sponsor. The best gum. The best gum I ever had, and you have to get it. You have to get it in the pill forms. I call it the pill forms. It looks like a pill. But I swear I could eat this gum all fucking day. Alright, let's go.
Please. Please help.
Why
She
does the
was
voice
begging
sound
for
fake?
help, pounding her hand against the door, all the while continuously turning her head around, as if she was expecting someone to come up behind her. The footage then comes to an abrupt end, only to start again seconds later. But this entire time, no one answers that door. The wait was just too unbearable for the child, as she then took off.
What the fuck was
Yelling
that,
incoherently
dude?
in the street before running out of view of the camera.
Bro.
Frustratingly, this footage
thought
was
we were
only
doing
viewed
internet
by the
mysteries,
homeowner
bro.
well
Come
after
on,
the
bro.
fact,
What is this?
and reports seem to indicate that this was a property that they rented out rather than lived in, with it being unoccupied on that night. But after seeing the video, the homeowner immediately contacted law enforcement and shared the video online in the hopes that more information would come forward, as it seems that neither they nor the police had any idea who this child was
showing that face,
or why
bro.
she needed help.
That
But since
face
these
is
clips were
uncanny.
first shared, these questions have still yet to be answered, at least publicly, as there have been no updates from law enforcement. Along with this, there have been no accounts from neighbors about the incident or any footage from other homes in the neighborhood, perhaps implying
The way she spoke is just sounding like acting. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much, but it probably could just be like, I don't know, little kid, big brother or sister doing some dumb shit. I don't know.
that this was her one and only stop of the night. It's like after this footage, this girl dropped off the face of the earth, with this
Alright,
entire
bro, we can
situation
go on
being
with
a
the
mystery to
picture.
this day, leaving us with
Like,
only
what,
theories.
bro?
The first and most popular theory is that this
I'm
girl
not
was
going to say it, but the fact that she doesn't sound real and she doesn't look real, that's all I need to say, okay? Some weird shit going on here. I'm not going to say the word. You guys know, bro. I think we're on the same
an
length
escaped
here.
victim of kidnapping, or perhaps an
Nope.
abusive household, and had run to the closest home to ask for help. We've seen situations like this many times
I
before,
don't think it's that.
with the most popular example at the moment being the case of Ruby Frankie, whose son escaped
Ew.
their house and ran to their neighbor for help.
Wondering if you could do 2 favors, taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine.
This certainly falls in line with this girl's behavior, as she was clearly scared about someone or something following her, hence why she kept looking back.
Fuck,
And
I'm
given
trying
that
to
there have
quote
been
my
no
chat.
updates to
Dude,
this
I always
case,
do
and that
this.
seemingly no one else saw her that night, it would indicate that whoever she was running from had recaptured her shortly after. And what makes this theory even more horrifying is that many online users believe that this girl isn't the only person shown in this footage.
Help, please.
As in the background, some can see what appears to be movement behind the bush, and potentially even a figure.
Please help.
And this just so happens to be the direction that this girl is looking in every time she turns back, almost like she knew someone was hiding there. Which brings us to our second theory. that this
Sorry.
entire thing was a setup. The belief here is that this girl was coerced into going up to a stranger's home to beg for help, so that when this unsuspecting
I was thinking
homeowner
that
would open
too.
the door, those people who made the girl do this would then rush into the home and rob the person. This could explain why she was looking at that bush so frequently, as that's where this person or these persons would have been hiding, and she was looking to them for guidance, perhaps unprepared for the homeowner not to open their door. Both of these theories are disturbing in their own right, and both clearly indicate that this girl is in need of help, regardless of what the situation is. But still, there's been no confirmation as to whatever happened to this child.
No
even
one
despite the
else,
public
like
interest.
no one else there had cameras or nothing. Like, it's 2025, bro. No one else had surrounding cameras in the neighborhood. Only this house had a Ring doorbell. Come on, bro.
One of the biggest talking points online came from some theorizing that this girl might be Serenity Denard, a then 9-year-old girl who had gone missing in February of 2019 from a children's facility in South Dakota, who looked eerily similar to the child shown in this video. But in my research, I was able to find a Facebook post from one of Serenity's mothers, who shared that they were in fact aware of the video, and that they had actually contacted law enforcement about it. And in her post, she claims that investigators told her that the girl had been identified at some point, and that she had lived in that neighborhood, with there being no further elaboration as to why she was asking for help. This is quite literally one of the
She
only
lived in that neighborhood, bro. Like, it might have been just them fucking around, bro. Little sister, bigger brother. Let's make some scary internet theme. You know, come on, bro.
updates I was able to find, but unfortunately it was one that I wasn't able to confirm, and it also fails to explain what exactly happened to this girl, leaving this footage and this entire scenario as one of the many mysteries of the internet.
Stop showing it! Fuck, I don't know why, bro. That shit just creeps me out. Doesn't look real.
Throughout my time here on YouTube, I've stumbled across some of the most frightening things on the internet, but one of the discoveries that scared me the most was my own personal information, just out there in the open on random sites that could be accessed by anyone. This is all because of data brokers who sold my information, making private things like my phone number available for anyone to see.
No, I'm not tripping, I
but
swear.
luckily I was able to combat this with the help of today's sponsor,
Bringing
Aura.
crazy over here.
They take care of the
bro.
hard part and automatically remove your information from these sites,
move out
along
this
with making
place.
sure
What
that it
the fuck?
stays off. Aura is all-in-one digital security and includes alerts if your personal info has been leaked on the dark web.
Alright, cool, bro. Don't care. Get your bag.
It
Shout out
started
Nick
with
Crowley.
a police chase. An officer parked alongside a highway in North Amsterdam had witnessed a black Mercedes speeding down the road and was now desperately trying to keep up with it. But the effort was to no avail, as the Mercedes would soon disappear from the officer's view. And when it would come back a few minutes later, it wasn't moving. It was instead left abandoned on the side of the road, the driver's side door hanging wide open, and the driver himself being nowhere to be seen, leaving that officer alone with the suspect's car, but no suspect. However, the vehicle hadn't been left entirely empty, as in the driver's rush to flee the scene, he had accidentally left his cell phone behind, and so the contents of this phone would be searched, which quickly led to the
What an
discovery of his
idiot.
driver's identity.
Let me
But for
guess, they found something
investigators, there was
crazy.
a far more pressing finding on that device. A finding in the form of a minute-long video stored on the man's camera roll that indicated that this driver may have been involved in a crime far worse than just speeding.
Wait, is this...
The footage was taken inside a different vehicle and showed an unseen driver holding up his cell phone alongside another man in the passenger seat. The camera was focused
I thought
on
I
a
saw
car in
this,
front of
never
them,
mind.
with both men seeming intent on catching up with it, as in the moments before this recording started, something had happened between them, which the men inside this car felt they had to get revenge for.
Voor ons net hebben brutaliteit met ons gemaakt. Deze mannen voor ons hebben net de brutaliteit. Run, maat, ze gaan hier, run!
They referred to this unseen incident as an act of brutality by a group of men in this other vehicle, and by the looks of it, it's likely that this car had simply cut them off, as there was a freshly closed lane in this.
I know this is probably in a different country, but this is why I just stay inside, bro. Like, I like going out and going places, but this is why I just try to stay inside. People are just so crazy these days, dude. Like...
stretch of road at the time, which created an unexpected merge. And this is most likely what this group inside this separate car thought too, as they were showing no signs of road rage, and were instead just casually driving with the flow of traffic. However, it's clear that the men behind the camera felt differently, as in their minds, what this other driver had done to them was so awful that it was worthy of only one punishment: death.
Gaan we zo moeten boeten. Ja toch? Oké. Sabi natin brutalidad uitgehaald is het dan against you.
What?
And so, this duo inched their vehicle closer and closer to this anonymous car, while continuing their rambling about this act of brutality. And when they finally positioned themselves next to the vehicle, the man in the passenger seat brandished a pistol and pointed it directly at the driver of this vehicle.
What?
The footage from here is incredibly shaky, and the window had been rolled down, causing the audio to peak and become distorted and
I don't even have words, bro. Like, I don't even have words.
indecipherable.
It says Amsterdam. This was in Amsterdam. That's fucking crazy. I'm surprised this was in America. But you know what's even more crazy? This is just a normal day in America.
Because of this, it's hard to say for sure what happens next, but it appears that the man holding the gun attempts to fire the weapon before pulling it back into the car, cocking the revolver once more, and firing again.
Oh, hell no. Yeah, that guy's decreasing speed.
To which both men erupt with laughter and begin celebrating, before the recording stops.
Oh.
Based on the footage, it's unclear what happened to the driver of this vehicle or the other occupants, and finding this information became priority 1 for law enforcement.
I don't think it fired here. I hope it didn't. I think he didn't cock it back like an idiot.
In their research,
He went to cock it back, and he probably went back to fire, and it probably fucking missed. I hope he missed.
they determined that this video was shot on May 12, 2014, at around 9:40 p.m., 1 full month before they had stumbled.
9:40.
What happened to the driver of this vehicle?
9:40. Brother, it looks like it's 5 o'clock there. What do you mean 9:40?
Based on the footage, it's unclear what happened to the driver of this
PM?
vehicle or the other occupants, and finding this information became priority 1 for law enforcement.
What?
In their research, they determined that this video was shot on May 12, 2014, at around 9:40 p.m., 1 full month before they had stumbled upon it, and it had been taken on the A1 highway near entrance 2101. And yet, when they checked their files to match this information with any of their cases, they realized that there was no record of this incident. This crime had never so much as been reported, despite it seeming to depict a shooting in the middle of a busy highway. To make matters more confusing, police were able to track down the men who took this video and carried out the actual attack, and yet neither of them claimed to know what happened to the people that they shot at, and both refused to elaborate any further, leaving investigators in a strange position. They had undeniable proof of a crime, one that at the very least was attempted murder, and they also had their suspects. They just didn't have any victims.
Like, bro, it's Amsterdam. Don't they have like the speed cameras, facial recognition with it too? Like, how the fuck can you not like just why aren't they trying to find where this guy's at, the victim? How are they not find where he's at?
So they studied the footage even more, which is when they made a disturbing revelation about these victims. Throughout the video, the perpetrators refer to the people within this car as a group of men, and while the footage we have today has the occupants' faces blurred, they were able to conclude that the driver was in fact a man. However, they discovered that the passenger next to him is clearly a woman wearing a headscarf. And most shocking of all, in the back seat was what appeared to be a child, meaning that they had been shooting at what, in all likelihood, was a family.
Lord have mercy, dude.
Police released this video to the public later that year under the name Amsterdam Schiet Incident Ringweg A10, or Amsterdam Shooting Incident on Ring Road A10, where they revealed this footage but disguised the voices and faces of the perpetrators for unknown reasons. And in releasing this, they asked the public to come forward with any information that could help identify this family. They asked for witnesses on the scene, car repair shops that may have fixed a car with bullet holes, any hospitals that had shooting victims on or around that day, and most importantly, they asked for the family inside this car to come forward, as without their testimony, convicting these men was nearly impossible, as it wasn't fully clear what crime they'd even committed.
Honestly, I just feel like he probably missed, had to cock it back, shot actually the first time, and then they missed, and they probably just decreased speed because, they're getting shot at, like, what the fuck is going on? And they went on about their day. This is what it seems like. They're probably not coming forward because they're probably scared to come forward as well.
That was 11 years ago, and to this day, no one has come forward. leaving us with only
They're
theories.
probably scared, bro. They
The
probably
first
just
theory is
dodged
that the people
death.
shot at in this footage may have been undocumented immigrants, or perhaps one of them had a warrant out for their arrest, meaning that if they were to report this crime,
yeah,
or if
could
they
be.
were to have gone to the hospital with a bullet wound, then police would have certainly got involved, and in turn they would have gotten in trouble as well,
I don't think anyone
essentially
got
forcing
shot.
them to stay quiet, as saying anything would put their freedom in jeopardy. Another theory is that the shots may have simply missed the vehicle, and the driver decided not to report it, with some believing that this whole situation was no big
Dumb,
deal.
but yeah.
But to me, this
believable.
doesn't seem like something that would be so easily brushed off, especially because a child is involved. Though it is possible
Oh, yeah, I
that
forgot
perhaps
there
this
is a
family
child,
was
yeah.
afraid to report the crime, as they clearly knew how dangerous these men were, and feared that
That's my
reporting this
theory.
crime would only further put a target on their backs. And
Uh-huh.
finally, there's the theory that this
Because I don't know, just trying to get in their headspace. You know, going forward, now your face is out there. Now those men could, you know, maybe find you and then actually do the job. So, I mean, I could understand them just being too scared to come forward. I mean, shit, I probably wouldn't.
weapon
I mean, well, sorry, this is America. It's different. I probably would have shot back, but I mean, it's different country.
never fired at all. This is where the audio peaking becomes a major factor, as it's extremely difficult to make out the sound of gunshots, as the gun was literally outside of the vehicle when it was seemingly being fired. But it is worth noting that investigators working the case seemed confident that when it was seemingly being fired to make out the sound of gunshots.
Yeah, I think they missed that shot, honestly. I think he tried his best to turn it back, but I think it fucking just went out towards those tree lines.
As the gun was literally outside of the vehicle when it was seemingly being fired. But it is worth noting that investigators working the case seemed confident that the weapon fired at least once, and I also personally hear a distinct popping sound at the end. But it's hard to say for sure, and it also is possible that this group was using blanks, with this all being an attempt to trick the other driver into thinking that he was in danger. But even with these theories, we still have no idea the fate that befell this family, and it's clear that they have no desire to come forward, for reasons we just don't know. Which leaves the Amsterdam shooting video, an internet mystery that may never be solved.
Probably just scared, bro. Oh my god, here we go.
Urgent, I need help please.
Here we go.
We are from BSAS West Zone,
Some fucking
Castelar,
creepy
San Juan
shit.
neighborhood. Her name is Emma Rosario Culk, who's been missing since Friday, June 12th. If you saw her, please call. Any information will be appreciated. This post was made to the subreddit r/Argentina on June 16th, 2020 by a user named u/NaramNaram, who asked for the public's help in finding a missing woman named Emma Culk, and in the comments he would offer more context, saying, "She went out to buy something and never came back. She was last seen here in the neighborhood. Sanchez and Pavan is the area where she went to buy something. She was dressed in the clothes that she's seen in the photo. She was carrying her wallet with her ID and a cell phone." Quickly, the post was inundated with concerned citizens wanting to help in the matter, with the gravity of the situation being made even greater, as earlier that day, Naram had made a similar post, which revealed that Emma Culk was actually his mother. This revelation only made the post more important, as people left comments offering support and encouragement, with many even providing advice on how he could potentially track her down, to which Naram seemed genuinely grateful. Across the entire internet, this seems to be the first post ever made on Emma's disappearance, but it would be far from the last, as people spread this information far and wide almost immediately after Naram's post, which was also followed by several local news reports, which proved that Emma was in fact a real person and was in fact missing, with these articles mentioning something that her son had not, that she was feared to have been taken. The
Cartel?
only thing we know for sure is that she went into her house, left her
Argentina
bike,
cartel?
and for some reason went out but did not come back in. Apparently, she did not leave on purpose.
Is it
and
San
that is
Juan like a bad area? Or am I just being dumb? I think San Juan a bad area. Who's no? What the fuck? Well, okay. I guess not.
That is what worries us the most. Things were clearly very concerning, and the tension of the situation
Which
only
probably, I don't think she's in the tourist area. It says tourist areas are generally safe.
increased as a day passed, and then too, with Naram vowing to keep everyone updated on the status of the search. And sure enough, right after this update, Naram's missing mother would finally be found.
Oh no.
The worst
Alive?
news, Emma Rosario Kolk was murdered. She had been missing since June 12th. Her son killed her with stab wounds and then buried her in the backyard of his house. He was arrested. Rest in peace, Emma. Emma Kolk had been found dead, murdered, and buried in her own
What?
backyard.
Bro. I thought for a second we might get a twist like this, but I was like, nah. I think there's in a bad part of San Juan. What the fuck?
The perpetrator allegedly being her own son, Daniel Kolk, who had confessed to stabbing her once in the chest and then twice in the head before burying her body in the backyard, with a motive never being given. The ending to Emma's search was disturbing, but perhaps the most shocking part was the revelation that she was killed by her own son, 20-year-old Daniel Kolk, which immediately called into question Naram's Reddit post, as he had claimed to be Emma's son, leading many to wonder, was Naram the killer? And so, desperate for clarification, someone commented,
He's probably
"By
trying
any
to cover his
chance, are you 20
tracks."
years old? To which Naram actually responded, writing simply, 25, before eventually leaving the following explanation. Apparently, it was my brother. That's what the police said when they declared the crime. This would mean that when Naram had been making these pleas to find his mother,
Is it a
in
brother?
reality, not only was she already dead, but she had been killed by his own brother and buried in their backyard. It's one of the most chilling things I've ever come across on Reddit, but the intrigue of this case doesn't
That's
exactly
fucking
end
sick,
here,
dude. What the
as there was
fuck,
something about
man?
Naram's story that wasn't quite adding up.
I don't
Just days
know,
before-
dude. I don't think that's his brother. I think that's him. I think he's just trying to cover his tracks.
Or the disappearance of his mother, he had left a comment on an unrelated post saying, "When I was 8 years old, I wanted to ride a bicycle without hands, according to me because it was easy. I was on the street, dirt, and I let go of the handlebars, and here I am at 19 years old, with the handlebars marked on my abdomen." In his own words, Naram wasn't 25, but instead 19 years old, and potentially 20 years old by the time
So he
his mother was
lied.
found, which put him at the exact age range as Daniel Kolk.
Knew it.
This prompted a wave of speculation and confusion and spawned the enduring mystery. Who exactly is Naram? While making things even stranger, digging deeper into his posting history, you can find another comment where he claims to have been working the same job for 6 years, which seemed to contradict the idea of him being 20, thus prompting even more confusion, which eventually caught Naram's attention, who responded by stating, "I didn't write that. It must have been my brother. I don't use this social network. I only used it twice for a work issue and now because my mother disappeared. This account is not mine." This recounting of events made Naram's initial story even more twisted.
This account isn't mine. I didn't write those. I don't use this. I only use it for this. It's a whole lot of deflection going on. I mean, it's him. It's clearly
As
him.
if this was true, then not only was it his own brother that killed the mother he was looking for, but he was literally using that same brother's account. And again, this gets stranger. Around the same time, Naram
Can we confirm if there's other siblings? I feel like this would be so much easier.
would thank the internet for its help on the case, and then proceed to swiftly disappear, leaving the account untouched for over 2 years. But this silence would be broken in 2022 when they suddenly returned, with their posts being slightly unhinged, gloating about their internet status, and bizarrely lashing
I told you it was him. I'm worried that you're such an idiot that instead of asking you accept everything Draw said. That poor Red Shoe lies to give me, but I'm like, bro, I told you this is him, bro. Look at this picture of him. What are we at, 1909? All right, look. He just looks like he speaks like that. Come on, bro. You're not fooling me. You're not fooling us.
internet status and bizarrely lashing out at random users who questioned him on his past and present motives. And in these ramblings, he would drop the bombshell that he wasn't actually Emma's son. He now claimed to be Daniel's best friend, writing that he allowed Daniel to make the post on his account to spread the news about his mother's disappearance,
Oh,
which he was
come
completely unaware
on.
that Daniel himself had caused. This was the last real update in this case, and it only threw more fuel on the fire of this mystery, with people wondering what version of events, if any, were true.
Was he locked up during this?
When I hear about this case today, many seem to believe that the entire time, Naram was actually Daniel Kolk.
Yeah.
And he had made this post to make it seem like he was searching for his mother, and perhaps to even use any given advice to help conceal what he did. As remember, many were offering suggestions on how to find her, which Daniel in turn could have used to essentially do the exact opposite, to help make sure that she was never found. This is tricky because the account posted briefly after Daniel was supposedly arrested.
Okay, see, that's
However,
what I
the
wanted to
status
know.
of this case is entirely unknown to this day, as there have been no updates as to whether or not Daniel was actually charged,
Okay.
with some choosing to believe that this was him the entire time, and perhaps he was even held in prison for a few years before being released, thus explaining his 2-year absence. Another theory is that Naram was initially telling the truth, and that he was Daniel's brother, and that he was simply using the account to spread word of his mother's disappearance, before eventually abandoning it. And perhaps the most recent posting on this account
Does
was
that
because
though? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's me. It's something different. Who shares a Reddit account? Who's sharing accounts like that? Like, if I had to share a PC with my sibling when I was younger, but like, I don't think I've ever like shared like an account like that.
it may have been hacked, which would explain the massive tone shift. Or maybe it's the most recent version of events that's the right one, and that this is actually Daniel's best friend. But why initially lie? And how do you explain the apparent inconsistencies in his age that are found throughout his posts? This entire internet mystery is one of the messiest I've ever come across, and nothing seems to make any sense, with the most inexplicable part being the very real murder at its core. A mother who was killed by her own son for no apparent reason, and given the lack of updates, it's hard to know if justice was ever served.
That's fucking sick, dude. Your own mother. How did you do that? Angel.
It took several months for
Pete's
Angeline
final
Pete's family to report her as missing. She had a long history of leaving home for extended periods of time, running off to join the circus and hitchhiking rides all across the Vancouver area, before eventually returning home to her normal life. But this time it felt different. None of her friends or family had heard from her since May of 2011, and it was now nearing the end of summer. This was especially odd considering that Angeline was known to be constantly texting, as well as updating her Facebook profile, with that profile now sitting completely dormant. But within that page filled with your typical selfies and normal life updates, there was one post that stood out, the final post she ever made. This photo was posted without context on May 20th, 2011, a day that just so happened to be the very last time that the vast majority of Angeline's friends and family members had heard from her. And when looking into the context of this image, her disappearance only becomes more concerning. That night, Angeline had been drinking with her fiancé Robert Calden in downtown Vancouver, and while the two were waiting to catch a ferry back home, something had sparked an argument, which eventually led to a full-on physical altercation. This fight caused such a stir that eventually police would arrive on the scene, where they noted that Angeline's lip had been busted, leading to them placing Robert under arrest. Though in the end, no charges would ever be filed, as Angeline refused to give officers a statement and instead insisted on just going home, which led to the whole thing seemingly being dropped. It was directly after this that Angeline would post this photo to her Facebook account without any sort of context, before proceeding to disappear into thin air. Her motivation for doing this isn't 100% known, but one could assume that she was trying to make a record of this attack, perhaps in case something were to happen to her. The timing of this is more than a little suspicious, and paints a horrifying picture of the potential fate of Angeline.
I feel like the cops arresting him probably just made this a lot worse. Not saying that they caused this, but I guarantee that probably really pissed him off.
That she had been murdered by Robert Calden.
He should have been arrested.
As a result of their fight on the 20th of May. It's a case that seems as straightforward as it is disturbing, but that's only on the surface, as there was another factor at play here, as when the police stopped this couple from fighting on that fateful night, Robert wasn't the only one facing jail time.
Wait, what?
Angeline was no stranger to abuse.
I was about to say something.
She had a long history of it herself, with her ex-boyfriend claiming to have suffered dozens of black eyes throughout their relationship, which had ended years prior. This violent behavior often stemmed from her trouble with alcohol, and Robert was clearly one and the same, with the two forming an extremely toxic relationship that often ended in one or both of them getting hurt. It was all too normalized for the pair.
Yeah, bro, you put two abusive people together in a relationship, one of them isn't making them out alive.
Which was highlighted by one of Angeline's final texts, where she wrote, "Gee, my lip hurts. I hate him so much that I love him." Now, I do want to make it clear that this is in no way meant to come across as victim blaming, but this is vital information for this case, as Angeline's history with violence had landed her in prison numerous times, most recently in 2009 when she was arrested for getting into a massive bar fight. This arrest in particular is noteworthy, as it carried with it multiple conditions, one of which was that Angeline was given a 9 p.m. curfew, and the other was that she was not allowed to drink.
And not allowed to drink. Yeah, bro, that That really helps. That does it. Yeah, that's totally gonna. She's totally gonna obey the 9 p.m. curfew. She's totally not gonna drink. You know. So it's
being broken on the night of May 20th, when police intervened in her and Robert's fight. This meant that Angeline was now likely going to be reincarcerated, and sure enough, that same night, officers arrived at her home to question her on the matter, but she failed to answer the door, which led to a warrant being made for her arrest 5 days later on May 25th.
She's on the run.
That day, a squad car pulled up to Angeline's apartment to bring her into custody, but when police entered the home, they would only find Robert, who just so happened to be on the phone with her. And officers claimed to have spoken with Angeline during that phone call, where they advised her to turn herself in, though she claimed that she was no longer in the area, and eventually hung up the phone. This would be the last time that officers would speak to Angeline Pete, and seemingly according to Robert, she returned home and left the very next day on the 26th, and never came back. This whole revelation muddies the water in this case, and provides us with our second theory, that Angeline Pete had run away to avoid reincarceration. But there's something unusual to me about this phone call with police. Now, there's hardly any information about this case online, but from all the articles that
going to get her arrested again, you know, boyfriend's hitting her, she's not any better. I mean, she definitely probably left.
I've read, it seems that no one in Angeline's life had heard from her after this photo was taken, with the exception of Robert. And when police spoke with her, it was only over the phone. They too hadn't laid eyes on her since the night of May 20th. Prompting some to wonder if Robert had arranged for some sort of decoy to make this phone call. Though however it happened, since that phone call, there has been no activity on any of Angeline's online accounts, and she's never deposited or spent a single cent from her bank account. From that point on, she's been essentially invisible.
Even though I said she could be running away because of the boyfriend, maybe scratch that. Maybe she just ran away because of the arrest. The boyfriend honestly could be helping her.
That was 15 years ago, and today we still have no concrete answers as to what happened to Angeline Pete, with some taking this as a sign that something sinister had in fact happened to her, as how can you go that long without leaving a trail, and without at least trying to come back? Especially in Angeline's case, as she was a mother. Angeline had a 7-year-old son who was by far the most important thing in her life. At the time she went missing, this child was staying with her father, Angeline's former partner, but she still played an incredibly active role in his life, and she wanted to be as involved as she possibly could be. And yet, after 15 years, she's made no attempts to try and reach out to him. Again, people have taken this as a sign that Angeline has perhaps been killed, and it isn't just Robert who they think might have done this, as some believe that she may have been killed by someone that neither they nor Angeline even knew. As I mentioned previously, Angeline had a habit of hitchhiking, and she was known to do so in a way that was overtly dangerous. And interestingly, there were some unconfirmed sightings of Angeline after she went missing, with some reportedly seeing her in Port Hardy and Grand Perrier, areas that she would have had to catch a ride to. Now again, these are totally unconfirmed sightings, but what's so chilling about this is that if she had been hitchhiking through those areas, then she likely would have found herself doing so along highway.
Maybe, you know, because like if she's hitchhiking and going to all these other places, like before this stuff happened, clearly she's away from her kid from a while. So maybe she just, maybe she just said, you know what, it's something I have to do, and maybe she did just run away,
Highway 16, which is now known as the Highway of Tears. Without getting too deep into this stretch of road is notorious for its disproportionately high number of women who have gone missing on it, and especially Indigenous women, with Aboriginal organizations claiming that as many as 40 Indigenous women have been killed or kidnapped while on this stretch of road. And coincidentally, Angeline was an Indigenous woman herself, who may have found herself hitchhiking on that very road.
Damn.
Angeline's disappearance is one of those cases that you can convince yourself that every theory is right.
That changes everything.
There's
Again,
just no way to know what truly happened to her.
I thought the kid shit
While
changed
this is
it,
an
but that
internet
changed
mystery
everything.
for us, for Angeline's family, this couldn't be more real. Many of them are suspicious about Robert and believe that police didn't do a good enough job investigating him, as he was never even considered a suspect. But they also hold on hope that Angeline is still alive and out there somewhere.
Run that back. What?
Suspicious about Robert and believe that police didn't do a good enough job investigating him, as he was never even considered a suspect.
Not even considered once he hit her. Like, how do you not get... Okay.
But they also hold on hope that Angeline is still alive and out there somewhere, and they'll often hold events and vigils to keep her name in the spotlight, and to assure she knows that she can always come back home. And it's this hope that has fueled her son since she disappeared, as all throughout his childhood he played hockey as a way of helping to find her, with one family member saying, "That's why he wants to play hockey, so if he gets famous, his mom will find him.
That's sad, man. At first, I thought, maybe she just ran away. Maybe she just, maybe she just ran away. She already had time away from her kids, so maybe since she got used to, she loved them. But the fact that she was on that highway and she was an indigenous woman, honestly, I feel like she probably is another victim. Unfortunately, that was a crazy ass video. Always a crazy video from Nick Crowley. Shout out to him.